Uncovering all the news from every dark corner of the universe. SliceofSciFi.com.
Hey, and greetings everyone to another Slice of Sci-Fi. I am Michael Armenengay.
I'm Ben Raggington.
And I'm Megan Zier.
And I'm Keith Lane.
And we have a very special guest on the line with us tonight. You may have heard of him. You may not. But I'm sure you've seen this guy before.
Like, if you've been listening to this show,
you know who this person is.
We don't shut up. Yeah.
Because over the past few months, Syfy Channel has done something amazing. They have really turned a corner. They have won our hearts. They have been delivering some of the most original, amazing programming, and the one that is the crown jewel right now is a little show called Defiance. And right now, we have the enormous pleasure of talking to Tony Curran, who, he plays Datak Tarr. And he's probably one of the most recognizable, influential characters in the show. So let's say hello to Tony Curran.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Man. So we were talking about this just before we started the show, and it is your character is going to be the one to watch, and I don't say that just because you're on the show with us today. I say that because I really think your character has got the most potential for serious character development over the next season or so, and I know you've shot it a lot more than we have seen. So I'm hoping that that I'm right about that.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely. It's definitely got a lot of potential. This show, there's a lot of the arcs from that came from our planet that was destroyed arrived in 2013, and it's now 2046. So there's a lot of backstory that can still be covered when the aliens have arrived on the planet, and there's certainly a lot of backstory and interesting avenues to go down from before they arrived on planet Earth and what happened to their planet and so on. But so I think the writers have definitely got some they've definitely got a lot of options for a lot of the characters in the show. And Datak in particular is he's a very unpredictable alien, and I think he's obviously very dangerous. But at the same time, I think what makes him interesting to play is that he's dangerous, but he's also vulnerable as well. A friend of mine said to me, once, "Oh, you've got a chip on your shoulder," and I said, "No, I'm very well balanced. I've got a chip on both shoulders."
Well put.
So I think there you go. I'm here every Thursday. So, Datak,
make sure to tip your waitress.
Can you imagine? It's a comedy club. No, but I think I think that's what makes him interesting. Is power corrupts, but power corrupts ultimately. But he's like a without using the term that I'm going to use it. He's very human in that sense. I think people find him. He's approachable and people can relate to him. But he's a misunderstood child who was brought up the wrong way, like many of us, I guess.
Well, I think the primary thing that I see happening, and I'm hoping that I'm right about this, is that we're going to start seeing how controlled he actually is, because his wife definitely has his number, and
she certainly does.
She has everybody's number.
She's got everybody's number.
As my wife does as well. Yeah.
I was going to say it's very reminiscent of real life.
Yes, indeed. Imitating life. It seems like a sort of patriarchal society, but it is. Where would we be without the ladies? And especially in Datak's case, I think there's a she's a very strong woman. I sort of make the the instance, like sort of a film like Sense and Sensibility, for instance, where you have, all these men and they're in such positions of power, but the women don't seem to have any power at all. But I think what makes it interesting with Stammer is that she's reinvented herself in this new world, and she knows, she loves her husband, but she definitely knows how to manipulate him for the good of their family. And who knows where my wife may go with this. But I think Datak, he's learning about it. I think he's not as cunning, and maybe he's not as cold as she is, but he's more streetwise. I think he's been raised, ripped up from the pages of a Dickens novel, if you will.
Right.
Whereas Stammer's been more, she's more from the aristocracy.
That's really good analogy. I didn't even think about it. It's very Dickensian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Dickensian, and I love Dickens. I did Great Expectations many years ago with an actor, Ewan Griffith. He played Pitt. I played a character called Orlick, and it was a similar dynamic. Where I was sort of from the gutter, but I think it's an interesting sort of a relationship, the two of them. I think it's difficult for them to stand alone, but as the seasons progress, hopefully, I think. They may, who knows where these two characters may go, but for now they're definitely, they're definitely a force of nature.
I think I'm interested to see what happens when he sort of comes to the realization that she has a lot more power over him than he thinks, since they do come from such a patriarchal society. No,
absolutely, and I think it's, I think it's very true of a lot of relationships with men and women, and in many societies where, for instance, I was just watching the golf channel there because I'm a bit of a golfer, and there was a golfer, a woman, the Swedish golfer. She played in the men's PGA tournament 10 years ago, and that was unheard of. Annika Sorensen.
Yes.
And everybody was like, that's cool. Everybody was like, okay, it could, if she plays well, it's going to be great for women's golf. But if she doesn't play that well, it might put women's golf back. But Vijay Singh, the golfer, was all up in arms, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not playing. I'm not playing because there's a woman playing." And I kind of thought, get out of your get out of your own head there, Vijay. And if it wasn't for the ladies, my friend, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
So I think it's I think it's great that the show has so many interesting and powerful women characters, because I think to get back to your point about Datak, I think when he starts to realize that how cunning, I think he does realize how smart she is, but if she starts to sort of behave in a certain way or to act in a certain way, which is seen by him as trying to take the reins,
that's overstepping a little.
Then I think that's overstepping the mark. Then I think that's don't stand in my ego. I think in many ways that he realizes that she is smart. There's no doubt about it, and he respects that. But I think if she ever starts to behave in a way that undermines his power, because he does, he is a very volatile, sort of individual, almost childlike in a sense.
He's very proud.
And incredibly proud.
Incredibly proud and very stubborn as well.
Yeah.
And I think just a few things that you've mentioned in the episodes that are coming up. There's a few, there's a possibility that things that certain characters do, Datak and Stammer, there's a possibility that they may, things might, they might have a few words to say to each other.
Trouble in Paradise.
Like that, shall I? Yes, Trouble in Paradise. Yes, as they say in the UK, trouble at mill. Trouble at mill. So yeah, it could. There's going to be a few twists and turns before the season ends between the two of them, most definitely.
Are you a huge sci-fi fan? Were you a sci-fi fan before you got here?
Yeah, I was. I was always. My wife as well. She's a mad. You know that Dune, that amazing, the film Dune.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
It's got Sting in it. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
we love that. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Ridley Scott and Blade Runner and the first couple of the first 2 or 3 Alien movies, things like that. And Battlestar is a friend of mine I play golf with, Jamie Bamber.
Oh yes.
Actually, who we did a show together called Ultimate Force in the UK years ago, and I remember him. We were finishing shooting it, and he said, "Oh, Tony, I'm off to America." And I'm like, "Oh yeah. What are you doing?" This is like, I don't know, 8 years ago, possibly more than that. He goes, "I'm doing this sci-fi show," and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's cool." And so it's kind of funny now that he's moved on from that, and I've now he played a human, of course. I'm playing an alien, but it's nice to be.
Jamie was on the show several times, actually. We've had Jamie on, I think, 2 or 3 times on here when he was on Battlestar. Yeah.
He's a good fella. He's a good boy.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, how did you get pegged to play Datak?
How did I get pegged? I said, well, basically, it was I went in, I auditioned for Scott Stewart, who directed the pilot, and Kevin Murphy was there, and Grant Bowler was also in the room, and I just went in. I responded to the script, the sides and so on, and I just ended up reading it, and I went through it a few times. They liked what I did. They gave me a few notes, and then and there began the process. As actors will always tell you, it's always lovely to get an offer. If someone calls you up and say, "Hey, Samantha, Ben, Michael, Keith, we've got an offer for you," you're like, "Great, what is it?" But obviously, this was not the case. I went through, like a lot of actors do. You go through 3, 5, 6, 7 callbacks, and that's what I ended up doing. I went back in again, and then I went back in the 3rd time. The 4th time I went in, I think I was reading with some of the girls who were up for Stammer. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of Dataks and a bunch of Stammers, and then and then they end up mixing you all together and go, "Oh, what's the chemistry? Is there chemistry here?" And then the last day that I went in with the couples, there was a dark-haired girl there, and I just said hi, and her name was Jamie, and she sat on my knee. We had to do this scene as if we were in the tub together, and as it's a funny story, Jamie had this sort of calm demeanor on her face, and she looked so cunning and beautiful, like Stammer should. And but I lay my head against her chest, it said in the scene, and all I heard, in my ear was this. God bless her, she's a total pro. Her heart was going like a jackhammer, but on the outside was this sort of calm facade,
Which is unusual because she's, as you said, she's a total pro. I mean, she's been on Warehouse 13 as H.G. Wells, so I would be surprised that she was responding to that. But I guess she's just like any other actor that's auditioning.
Yeah, and I mean, they love to throw her in the sexiest thing possible anyway, no matter what she's doing.
God, she could look good in a paper bag.
Absolutely.
In a potato sack. Or someone said maybe it's because she was sitting on my knee.
Oh, yeah, that's
maybe it. She was terrified. She was like, "Get me off of this red-headed ASAP," But and we ended up, I think we had a bit of a sparkle, if you will, and then we ended up going back a few other times, and then we eventually got the offer. So there was a few few hoops to jump through, but it's a real joy working with Jamie. She's such a she's so good at what she does, and she's got great ideas, and above all, she's a very funny woman. She's got a great sense of humor. Which when you're in the tub, covered in white makeup, and your bits are hanging out or trying not to hang out because you can't show that on a sci-fi show. But as I'm sure you've seen so far, some of it is quite risque.
Oh yeah.
But it's like above the water. We're like trying to be all fabulous and cunning and sensual and dangerous. But below the water is just absolute knees knocking against each other. and she's like, and as soon as they say cut, we both go, bloody hell, what my name? You put your knee between my groin. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I didn't mean to. And I'm like, no, that's fine, babe. Wasn't it painful? I said, yeah, but the scene seemed to be going quite well. So I kind of it was your close up, so I bit my tongue. Yeah, that's some altruism for you. But
well, that's delightful. So we had talked to a couple of weeks ago. We talked to Nicole Munoz, and she was telling us that when I guess there was a big table read when everybody was cast, and everybody kind of got an idea as to what their characters were. What I'm kind of curious about is what was your initial impression of Datak, and as the series has gone on, is there anything to the character that you're bringing?
That's a good question. When I first read it and we sat down at the table read, my initial thoughts was, he's a real survivor. This person, he's a real. I think he's very loyal to his family, but he's very unpredictable, very uncompromising, and. Sounds like Tony Soprano, but actually, I started watching a lot of The Sopranos when I was preparing for this, and I just felt that he was he's a lot of he's a real social climber, hugely ambitious, but just but a kid, a sort of a creature from the streets. And he needs to be fine-tuned. Something, he's a blunt instrument, and he needs to be sanded down, and he could turn into a very powerful and upwardly mobile character in Defiance, but obviously with the help of Stammer, that hopefully he can go there, and then I think that. After I've been shooting it, there's a lot of many scenes that I've shot with other characters, and it's great because the writers, they notice certain things. Not that one takes, you act what's written on the page, but there's sometimes where you do certain things and you improvise it. You take the scene and you give it a little bit of a magic flavor, a magic touch that makes it sparkle, makes it more special, and I think a lot of the times the writers have noticed what the actors have been doing, and in many ways that's influenced the next episode that they're writing. I think with Datak, a lot of it is to do that he acts first, and
right.
I don't even think he bothers asking questions later, It's like, he acts first, then he acts. And I'm like, no, he just kind of acts. And then there's three people lying in a pool of blood on the floor. But and Stanley looks up to the sky again, go, Datak, come on. It's one of those, we could have used those people, to our own end. We could have questioned them, and he's like, well, they insulted you and said something about your outfit, and she's like, great, how. So I think there's things like that with Datak that he, she's trying to, make him, a more fine, upstanding citizen. But but I think it's very hard for him to. A leopard never changes its spots, as it were. But and other things like he, I think that. He's also there's a funny story. My nephew he was in a class once, and he was in a history class, and the teacher said to him, he noticed he wasn't actually concentrating my nephew, and he used Irish, this guy, and he said Barry, and Barry looked up, and they were talking about Shylock and the Merchant of Venice, and he said Barry, Shylock, and he goes, yes, Mr. Murphy. He goes, victim or victimizer, and Barry was like, and everybody looked at him, and he was like, surely he's a little bit of both, sir. And Mr. Murphy smiled and looked at him and went, "Oh, okay, Mr. Johnson, very good, sit down." So when he told me that story, I always remembered it, because for me, I think that's very much the way Datak is. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, I think he is. You know, it's like playing the bad guy. You know, it's like if you just want to. I didn't really want him to be on one level. You know, okay, he's a bad guy, but. You know, bad guys get kicked in the teeth too. You know, bad guys get knocked into the face in the mud, and a lot of the time, you know, bad guys are the reason that they've become this way. They've been sort of sculpted by society. You know, and it's society's problem. This character has grown up this way. And,
exactly.
And in many ways, he can be a unpredictable, sort of bad force. But at the same time, someone did something to him back in the day that's created this animal, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the way I look at him, and that's why I think he's going to be the most interesting character to watch, because he is not good, he is not bad, he is in between, and he is the creation of this world that he's been dropped into.
And that Shylock comparison, very apt. I never thought about it. But Shylock had a purpose in society, and everybody hated his purpose, but it served
was a
one.
purpose, exactly.
No, absolutely, and a lot of the purpose, in many ways, there's a real dignity to that purpose, and there's a real sort of well, Shakespeare said it, you know, never a borrower nor a lender be, you know. My mother often says that to me. You know, if it's good enough to give, it's good enough to give back. You know, and I guess to relate that to Datak, it would be, this guy being a coward, and Bandic in episode 2 when Bandic runs away, and and Datak thinks he's a coward, but at the same time he has this sort of cultural reference to, he should be put on the rack, but at the same time, he's got double standards, because all these people who have this sort of cultural reverence towards this, these were the people that were that were standing on Datak not so long ago, because he wasn't a prince or a king or some sort of political figure in Castathan society. He was in the lowest rung of the ladder, and but now it's working for his own ends in a different world where he's recreating himself. I think he's smart enough and streetwise enough to realize that if this can move him upward, make him upwardly mobile within this new society, then he's going to do anything he can to achieve that.
Right.
Now
he's an absolute bounder. He's a swine, but he's a lot of fun to play. So.
We did get the announcement that Defiance is coming back for another 13 episodes next year. Woo! Party! Celebration!
Great. Party, celebration. More makeup.
More makeup. Have you, I suppose you haven't heard anything yet as to any directional arcs your character may be going?
I have, I have.
But you cannot tell.
But I tell you, I'll have to. No.
Exactly.
I know where you live.
Yes, you could tell us, but then you'd have to kill us.
That might be worth it.
Exactly. No, never.
That's a secret that will be worth dying for.
Oh, you're true pros. I love it. With Kevin Murphy, there's been a few things, because at the end of the season, I shouldn't say too much, but Defiance has been changed again quite dramatically by some individuals who we haven't met yet, shall we say, Mr. Ambiguous. So I guess the beginning of the next season is going to be really interesting, because I think there's a possibility that a lot of the characters will still be there, or hopefully they'll still be there, but they may not be in certain parts of the world where they were before. How does that sound? Does that sound? Go to the top of the ambiguity class there, kid.
No, that's actually that actually is good. I like
just
that.
detailed enough.
It was just enough to actually get us going.
Just to tease the carrot, just a little chaser.
Well, I gotta say, thank you for talking to us. This has been just a delight. I was so excited to talk to you when I heard we were going to get to
Absolutely.
Thanks. It's so sweet. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there are you any of the social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook?
Yes,
there, or is there any way for people to follow you?
Yes, they can follow the old. I'm at Tony Curran 69. And everybody, the girls always giggle. They go,
yeah, there is giggling going on in the studio too.
Sorry, I'm a 13-year-old boy.
Guys,
yes, we're all pure teenagers here.
The year I was born, girls. The year I was born. But I like the way you're thinking. No, sorry, that's terrible. This is radio. You can't say that. So at Tony Curran 69, and then my Facebook page is at Tony Curran. It's Tony Curran Official.
You hear that, people?
Okay, there you go. That's where you go and where you find him.
You can also follow Datak, actually.
That's right.
Oh, really? Cool.
I think am.
The real Datak. Nothing to do with me, of course, but there's at Datak Tarr. Yeah.
Oh, that is excellent.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so very much for talking to us.
Thank you, guys. It was a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
This has been wonderful. We're all big Defiance fans here, and we love watching Datak. So kudos to you for what you do.
That's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care.
All righty. And if you're not watching Defiance, definitely do so. It's on SciFi Channel.
Yeah.
And we will be talking about that more over the weeks, of course. But that's going to do it for this show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back with more in a couple days. Bye.